Okay. Hello. I think now we are live. I'm just going to check. They're watching, but let me see. I'm going to start recording
Yeah,
in a
let's
few
let's
minutes.
wait. Yeah, let's wait for a few folks to join before we get started.
Yeah, 1 second. I just want to check on my phone because the thing is, I'm not going to be able to see the messages here.
Oh, okay. So maybe while I'm talking, you can check.
Yeah. Oh, we are there. Yes, we are live. Okay. I'm just going to share it to my profile. Share. Here we go. We're gonna wait for a few folks to join.
Yeah, maybe at the 4 or 5 minute after mark. That's the new thing we also have with meetings. They say, okay, start your meeting 5 minutes late to allow people to go,
Mm-hmm.
get a bio break, come in, because
Yeah.
Zoom is just exhausting these days.
Oh yes. Now everybody's on Zoom. Okay, I think we're gonna start now, Noelia.
All right, let's do this.
So you guys, this is my first live with a guest, and I am so happy to have Noelia with me. Such a pleasure to have her here. We go a long way back, and maybe she's gonna tell you a little bit about why that is or where we met. But Noelia is my first guest, like I said, in this Viernes de Finanza, no Viernes de Soltero, aunque también Viernes de Soltero también.
Yeah, for all the women in IT out there and all the folks that are either or starting with their investment journey, salud to all of you.
Salud.
Well,
Okay.
thank you so much for having me, Judy. It is a pleasure and it is an honor to be your first guest. And yes,
Yes.
for some of those, a little background here. Judy and I met in college. We were college
Yes.
buddies. We
That's right.
also, it's been a great journey. But for those that obviously don't know me, right, Noelia Ramirez, I actually was born and raised in the Dominican Republic, and I migrated to the United States when I was 16 years old, knowing now maybe a couple of words in English.
15, huh?
Yeah,
Yes.
15, and did 2 years of high school here, and then somehow with the resources I had, I enrolled myself in college, and it was so great to
That's
be
an
in college.
accomplishment on its own because you
Absolutely.
coming in, as a teenager, 15 years old, you only had a few years in high school and then getting yourself into college, that's an accomplishment.
And it's something that I want to emphasize. It was, what my parents and my family has always stressed is that, we are hardworking people, but if anything that we can leave behind is make sure that we give you an education, and that they try their best to give me an education so I could do, better than they did. And I'm blessed to have parents that supported me.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, and absolutely, and building community is something that is important. I had people help me even fill out the college application because I barely knew the language. I
That's
have,
so great
yeah, I
that
have
you had a
teachers.
community helping you.
Yeah, I had teachers, that helped me even fill out that application because I would have to pick a dictionary and and
Oh my
actually
God.
translate the questions
Translate.
in that application. But
We
it was
didn't we
never a
didn't have
doubt.
Google Translate back then.
Oh no, people. For those
It was
young,
an
new
actual
generations,
dictionary.
for the millennials and Generation XG, whatever those are these days,
Yes, that's right.
we didn't have phones, okay?
No, no. Yes, we don't want to
Yeah.
date ourselves, but we go way back. Yes, there
but
was
but
no
the key
iPhone back then.
no, but the key here was that if my parents made a sacrifice to move to this country, was for the obvious reasons, chasing the American dream. And I only knew that through hard work and education is what I was going to get. And then getting to college and finding friends like you and our dear friend Marta, and building that
Yes.
community of trusted, friends, advisors that help through that journey. Because, you could easily have, I saw lots of people drop out of college.
Yeah. So Noelia, why did you decide to go into tech? So you made it into college, right?
Mhm.
Why did you decide to go into tech, or what made you decide? How did you get into tech?
Yeah, it was, to me, I call it a love at first sight. Again, because I was part of the ESL program in high school. One day, one of my English teachers said, "Oh, we're going to write a newsletter to learn how to write, how to write in English." And it was at 15, the very first time in my life that I actually got to see a computer. And we walked in
Wow.
into the lab, and while
Uh-huh.
everybody was trying to start writing, I saw this thing and I was like, "What is this? How does it work?" And
Oh my goodness.
from that day, I said, at that point, I didn't even have an idea what I wanted to do. Probably in the realms of maybe a lawyer, a doctor, or something like that.
Mhm.
But I saw that computer and started plugging cables, which my teacher didn't like, in the back. And I knew right there and there, I don't know what it is, but I need to find out how this works and how. So that's how I actually got my,
Oh,
yeah,
okay. So actually, before going into college, you knew that you wanted to do something with computers. You didn't know what, but
absolutely.
something with computers.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So then when I enrolled in college and look at all the things that were provided, I saw computer science, bachelor
Mhm.
in science. And so that was, I declared my major, I think my freshman year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so pretty early on, you knew. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And,
I admire people who know what they want to do, like when they're younger, and then they follow through with that. I admire those people because I had no idea. I never knew what I wanted to do, or it's not that I didn't know what I wanted to do. I wanted to do everything, but you knew what you wanted to do, and then you follow through actually with your
absolutely.
plans.
It was that. And always was very good with chemistry and biology. So I thought I was going to be a doctor. And I am a people's person. I think, I love caring for people. But it wasn't until, again, my first year in college, I
Yeah.
took bio and I had to dissect a pig and I almost fainted. And I was like, yeah, for sure, this is computer science.
That's so that's so great. College gives you the opportunity to try
Yeah,
different things, and then for sure what you don't want to do, right? That's
absolutely.
great. That's great. Um, so you went to college and you got a computer science or information. What was your major, and what bachelor's did you get
Yeah, so I had a bachelor's in science in computer science.
in computer science? Got it.
Yeah.
So once you graduated, you know, um, for women in particular, it's hard to get into the actual workforce in technology. So how did you break into tech? Like, how did you get your first job?
Absolutely. And if there's something that I want to leave for everyone there that is either starting high school or college or already has a job, the key here is always trying to better yourself through strong work ethic, integrity, being persistent, and being very resourceful. And those, if you want to call it skills or personal characters, is what helped me get into, because I never took any internships or any jobs outside of my college career, because I needed to learn the language while also learning learning
Mhm.
how to program and do these things. And so when I graduated, it was daunting. I was afraid of, again, conquering the world, getting myself out there, and to find out that because I didn't have an experience, a lot of doors were closed. And
Mhm.
so I, again, being resourceful, I said, okay, I need to somehow build that experience. So I started doing a lot of temp jobs in IT, being even executives in IT groups and things like that. I did that actually for 2 years until I
Okay,
had my big break.
that's awesome. That's good. And then once you got your big break, that was when you knew you are in the field.
Right. So I spent about, in those 2 years of temping, I spent 1 year in an investment banking. And I noticed that I was going to, I was hoping, because it was a major investment banking, that they will give me an opportunity. I spent a year and I noticed it wasn't, and I felt like my career was gonna get stuck, and it was hard again to make that decision. I need to leave a
Right.
post in a very good company. I was still a temp and well paid, but again, it wasn't what I wanted to do. But interesting enough, again, about being resourceful is that I was working doing small access programming. I'm sure you remember those days there,
Yeah.
and I was sitting close to the folks that were in the maintaining the data centers, and I hear them going in and out of this room. And one day I made friends with them, and I was like, "What is that room?" And again, love at first sight. They
Uh-huh.
allow me to go into a server room, and I went
Mm.
in, and the bells and and it was love at first sight.
Love at first
I
sight.
was like, I don't think I want to program for the
Butterflies
rest
in
of
your
my life.
stomach.
I love, this room with all these machines and all these lights. I want to know how they work and again, being resourceful and taking initiative. I went in and I actually saved the money and enrolled myself into an IT training that I pay out of pocket for it. Back then, it was
Okay.
for CAMP-TIA help desk analyst, a certification, because I knew
Mhm.
that was the way to get in. So long story short, I took that training. I took it. I passed, and then I applied for a position that was temp to permanent in an
Mhm.
IT department, and within 3 months, what the equivalent to the CIO back then saw, the energy, the passion, and one day he said, "Hey, come into my office. What did you go to college?" And I said yes, and I said to them, just to him, I want to work in the server rooms. I already took my certification, and he just looked at me. He got up and he said, "Come with me." I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm in trouble." He was my boss. I was his executive assistant. He walked me down to the actual little room where all the systems engineers and the help desk stuff were there. And he approached the manager and say, "Meet Noelia, give her a pager. She starts working in the help desk tomorrow." And then he turned to me and said, "Noelia, find me another assistant just as good as you."
Oh my God. See, that's how you get your break. That's
Yes.
awesome, Noelia.
But
There's
that came with
always
hard
someone.
work. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
always someone that's going to give you the opportunity. But they just don't come, right? It's you got to help yourself.
Mhm.
I didn't do anything special. I just was me. I was a hard worker. I showed initiative. I did things above and beyond, and he noticed.
Yes, that's so awesome. So, it's always hard to build a career over time, over the years, especially you've been, doing this for so many years, like over 2 decades now. And we all have obstacles building a career. So you mentioned one of your obstacles is, for example, that you had to learn the language first. And let's be honest, when you have an accent and you're working in the corporate world, that is something that it stays in the back of your mind, right? And you feel like you are maybe not enough. And what you were telling me before, we were talking before,
Hmm.
and a lot of times you go through this thing that we call the imposter syndrome, right? And I'm sure you've gone through it. And what do you do to overcome that?
Yeah. So something we also should mention that for all the folks out there listening, we're not trying to paint a great picture here. There's been a lot of struggles, a lot of tears, a lot of hard work, right? And the key here is that life is a journey, and you just need to keep moving forward. And yes, on top of that is entering a field that was dominated by males, being a female, black, with an accent. So that on itself was, weight that I was bringing in, and
Yes.
to this day, it's not something that you can let go that easy. I still work on that every day. Things like the imposter syndrome, because no matter how hard I work, I always feel like I am being an imposter, that I don't belong. I've
Uh-huh.
I'm lucky that I've been successful, but sometimes I have to stop and remind myself, I am successful because I am working very hard, to accomplish, and trying to let go of that is hard.
Mhm.
For sure, but yes, the accent is something that is something that is, like you said, is always in the back of my mind. Sometimes in meetings at the beginning, I didn't want to speak up. I had great ideas, and I wouldn't
Yes.
speak up because I didn't want people to laugh at me or say that they couldn't understand. And I honestly can say that probably, I am happy where I am in my career, but I probably will be further along if I didn't have those mental,
Mhm.
obstacles and things that society put in place in that area.
I completely relate with you, on that aspect. And for those that don't know what imposter syndrome is, I just looked it up, and its definition says is doubting your abilities and feeling like a fraud. It affects high achieving people, but especially women who are in careers like yours, like mine, where is male dominated, right? Especially in those careers, women feel like are fraud, that they don't belong in that place. So that's what imposter syndrome is. And it's hard for you to accept your accomplishments because you think maybe one day people are going to find out that I'm not really that smart, or people are going to find out that I don't really know everything. So that's always in the back of your mind, and you feel like, what am
Which
I
is
doing here?
Yeah, which is okay, because even though males do have a percentage of the population does, but a lot of the males don't do. They just feel they're the greatest and they go and do it, and this is why you see also a lot of males that have a lot of leadership roles, right?
Yeah,
They just go
exactly.
for it.
Just go for it. And that's what women don't do. We just don't go for it, right?
Absolutely.
So, Noelia, what is like working in the corporate world?
It has its pros and its negative, right? Is an area. It's very competitive, right? It's very competitive. It's very demanding, but at
Mhm.
the same time, it's very rewarding. You feel like you're really doing things, that you're really accomplishing things. And let's be honest, I mean, we have to love what we do, but we also work because we have to pay the bills. So the pay is well. Benefits are great. Unfortunately, on some of the jobs that are, more jobs that are not in the corporate world may not offer certain benefits like health insurance or even a type of retirement fund. But again, I think the cons outweighs the pros. It's very competitive, very demanding, long hours. But again, is a job that's rewarding, and that you get lots of great benefits that come with that.
Yes.
It's, if you have to compare, right? We have, especially on our Latino community, our people going there and working 12, 20, 12 hours shift, and maybe making minimum wage, and not getting, vacation paid or things like that. It's hard. But in the corporate world, if you do your thing, and you get trained or get your education, and you are lucky to enter, you are rewarded for the hard work that you put in.
Do you feel like do you feel grateful, or maybe you feel lucky, kind of lucky, that you went into this field not knowing probably that it was going to be one of the fields and industry that is in such demand and really well paid, one of the highest paid. Do you feel lucky that you, as a young age, you went into this industry, and it's paying off over the years now?
Absolutely. Lucky, blessed. That's something also we can't forget, is that we have to count our blessings every day. Listen, through this whole pandemic situation, my accommodations I work with, I always worked from home, so that didn't affect me. I did not lose my job.
Mhm.
So yeah, blessed for the work I have, and also the reminder is that I'm a minority, and my community of people, a portion of them are minorities, and I see the ones that are in corporate and the ones that are not, and the struggles that they go through. And yeah, every day
Right.
I knock on wood and say, I'm blessed for what I have.
Very good. You're blessed indeed. So you've been in tech for a long time now. Have you seen any changes in the industry? Well, the changes in the industry happen because it's tech. Tech changes every year, so you keep updating yourself. But have you seen any changes in the way
Yeah,
maybe Latinas are perceived? Not just
yeah, it's
women, but
the
Latinas.
the corporate culture, right? In
Right.
the especially in this in that niche in the IT industry, and gosh, yes, for the better.
For the
Thank goodness,
better.
for the
Yes.
better. Yes. So again, let's remind everyone, right? It's an industry dominated by male, and then we are females coming in from a minority background, and as as much as I always try not to think that way because again, if you already go in thinking that way, then I always weigh myself as I'm just another body, and this is
Mhm.
about who can do the best job or do their job the right way, right?
Mhm.
So I try not to think too much of that because I also, you know, thinking that might even stop me from doing things.
Mhm.
So back in my early days, I had even to change a bit of my personality to fit in, to be one
Mhm.
of the other guys. I was blessed again to have throughout my IT career have uh, male coworkers that were supportive. There were a few here and there that always had the weird comments and things that made situations really weird. But yeah, mentally and physically had to adapt because I felt that's what I needed to do. For
Mhm.
example, I stopped wearing skirts or and wearing pants, or I had
Yes.
to make sure that I never showed cleavage or anything like that because I needed to make sure that that was not a distraction.
Right. Exactly.
And yeah, absolutely. And it was a lot of hard work, but I don't know if you want me to talk about the changes that I'm seeing now.
Yes, absolutely.
So these days, I cannot say enough how I will encourage anyone, male, female, to enter the field. Again, it's a place that is ever evolving, ever changing. It's a dynamic culture environment. You're always learning, meeting so many awesome, intelligent people. And yes, we have come a long way. I think more than the mainstream corporate America in IT, language barriers are not anymore considered a major, a negative. It's
Mhm.
very inclusive. We're inclusive of all, sexuality, backgrounds, things like that, especially for women in IT and men. There's been also this change on trying to balance more that work-life balance,
Mhm.
allowing some folks to work from home. Again, more benefits being added, wellness things where companies are work. And again, the key here also driving is talent, right? Companies,
Right.
there's a lot of IT companies fighting for each other for market
Mhm.
shares and who can be more successful. And that can only happen if you have great people working for you and talent. So there's a lot of benefits and things that are offered to retain that talent and for people like us to take advantage of and
Right.
have options, right? And have options
Right.
too.
So if it's such a great industry, right, and it's a really well-paid industry, why aren't more Latinos going into this industry? Why do you think? Because back then, when we were going, um, there was such a small percentage of Latinos going, and Latinas, it was basically almost none, right? Very few. And right now, as I see the statistics, there's only 3% of Latinas that are going into tech. So not much has changed. So why do you think that is? If it's such a well-paid job?
Yeah,
And
not more has changed, and there is a tremendous outreach out there for these companies to continue to look talent. They don't care where you are, where you come from, as long as you can do the job and do it well.
Mhm.
And I think the reasons in our community is communication, dissemination of that communication
Mhm.
is not that message not getting to our communities because again anyone can do it. You don't have to be a genius. You don't have to have a PhD in, well, it depends on what you want to do, but in math or anything like that. I think it feels like some folks might think that, and because I'm again talking out of experience. I like to talk, with my community and go out and talk to, especially with high school students when I get a chance and give them advice, and they're like, oh yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
not for me. That's like, and I'm like, why not? You can. It's not. It's
Right.
easy. It's not that hard.
Can you, now that we are on this, can you actually talk about the different roles that technology has? Because a lot of times people think that when you go in, when you say technology, it's about a software engineer, software developer, you are coding or doing networking, or maybe fixing computers.
Beauty, yeah.
There's so many other roles in technology. Can you talk about a little bit more of what kind of roles are there for people maybe that are not as technical?
Yeah, absolutely. And it has been, again, it has been a transition, right? Yes, we went from the hardcore, the so-called
The
geeks.
geek,
I don't like that word, right?
yes.
With all the pages on the side, which I
The
was one of them at
geeks,
one point.
geeks are sexy now, okay? Geeks are considered sexy now.
Yes, it is. so so yeah, it has evolved, and yes, the notion that you have to again be a whiz in math and things like that, not at all. It depends, again, the realm of the different spectrum of all the different careers is for the choosing, for the liking of what anybody can do. And again, it could be a programmer, it could be someone that's a systems engineer in security, networking, but also is someone can be a program manager, a project manager. You could be just actually a manager managing the technical folks. You can do, a big trend right now that is just actually very in their infancy, no more than 10 years, customer experience, where
Right.
very little IT
Sales,
is
you can go into
needed. Yeah,
sales,
sales, pre-sales,
marketing.
absolutely marketing. You just need to understand what a product do and just go out and sell it. Let the developers develop that product. You sell that product, or you could be the project manager that runs those developers so that they have a list and task, and those things, the development is moving forward. You don't need to be super techie with that. So yes,
Analyst.
absolutely, this notion again that you have to go to college and take all these crazy classes like you and I took.
Yeah. All the
No, not
programming,
at all. Not
all
at
the
all.
C
Listen,
programming.
yeah, it's about, again, education and getting the word out. I myself, obviously, I'm a married woman with two kids, a boy and a girl, and I speak to my daughter about, and a quick note here. I had this conversation. My daughter is 13 years old, and one day she told me that computers were for boys, and I almost had a heart attack. And
Right.
I looked at her and I said, "What do you think mommy works on?" And she said, "Yeah, computers." I said, "Yes, so if I can do it, you can do it." But then, different topic, but I know what my kids in a way will be able to do. And I said, "Okay, fine. You might not want to do programming, but I see your personality, and you could be a great manager and manage those folks." And she looked at me and said, "Oh yeah, I would love that." Right?
Oh, she's a
So
leader. Yes.
yeah, so
She's a
so
leader.
so so that's what, and maybe that's the difference there, that people might think that they just need to do those things, and not necessary. Folks, go out there, check the internet, look at all the postings, and you
Yeah.
will see all these careers where you don't need to be very technical.
Yes, you don't need to be technical. It does help to have a um, a computer science degree, but not necessarily, right? You don't have to have a computer science degree. You can have some other degree in fine arts, in anything, but as long as you find a way into one of these companies doing, like I said, doing marketing. You could be doing marketing for a computer, for a tech company.
Absolutely. It doesn't have to be a bachelor's in science. It could be a bachelor's in art. I have colleagues that don't have a bachelor of science degree. They have a different type of degree. because again, again, there are many different positions that require different skill sets.
Mhm. Okay, so do you have advice for a person who maybe wants to explore this industry, and also for someone who's perhaps trying to break in the industry, that is probably already working in something else, but they probably want to go into the industry, so they're farther along in their career, or someone who's just coming out from high school? So two different things, right? Do you have
Yeah, I think
advice for someone?
for sure. So for someone younger that is in high school or even college and they still are trying to define, there's also work that needs to be done. Go out and there's so many resources, especially in that area in high school and college to understand what are the things that you like. Speak to a counselor, someone to really understand what you really like and want to do, because a great thing is you need to find your passion, your calling, because once you find it, no matter how many obstacles you have on your way, you will conquer them, right? And that doesn't matter if you're young or old. But the key here is, if you just like, yeah, I want to do it, but I don't know. I would suggest just go to the internet, search the job sites and find out the descriptions of what those jobs are, so you can get an idea and read them. And it's like, oh, that excites me. That's something that I would like to do. And then once you have an idea, then we got to put the work too. Go and find the money, enroll yourself. There are a lot of, I'm sure there's benefits and scholarships and things out there that you have to do. And then you might you could say, well, I'm a married woman with kids. I don't have the time to go to college now, but maybe you can take a technical training. Yeah, there's plenty of technical trainings that you can go out there and take. Get a certification. Most technical training will offer a certification at the end. At least that certification will open doors for an interview, and then the rest, is up to you. But there are so many resources out there, and the key here is stop thinking about it. Just go out and do it, and doors will be slamming in your face, but you keep positive and keep going there
Focused, yeah.
and focus, and you will get where you want to be. And another thing, like with me, right, I have a computer science degree. I was trained to be a programmer, and in my career there were three major changes I made in my career. I was first a programmer, then I was more hardware person, then I was more of infrastructure operations, and now I'm more consultative, a consultant, kind of. It's a progression that you have to do as part of your personal development, right?
Right. Okay, so those are really great advice, Noelia, to go on there and look at the description of the jobs, and then figure out if that's something you want to do. That is really awesome.
But the key, look, Jude, is always pushing forward and doing something. Don't, and listen, I know, because some folks listening to us might say, oh, sure, they can say those things because they made it, they have, they had their careers. But I was that at one point, even right when out of college, not trying to get, but I could have easily just stay at home or not get a job on my field, but I pushed myself, and it was very uncomfortable going through those interviews and those things. But it
Do you
was,
recommend someone getting an internship when they're in
yes,
college? You were not able to get it, but
right.
I think it would be a good idea if they do get an internship, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Internships are paid or not paid, are great, because you build your experience. It's something that you can put on your resume to show your future employer or things that you can do, and it also gets you in to see if you really like that, or you might want to switch to something different.
Right. Okay. So that's great. Now I want to switch gears a little bit, because we've been talking about, Latinas in tech. And since you have a career going, you are obviously trying to build wealth, and this is a Latinos Creando Wealth page. So I wanted to ask you, when did you start thinking about investing? Because we spoke before, and you told me how excited you were, and I saw that you started investing. So when did that happen for you? When did it click on you that this is something that you wanted to do or you needed to do, right? In order to build wealth. So when did that happen or what happened?
Absolutely. Before we switch topics here, just want to say to folks out there, if they ever, need advice or anything like that, I'm sure they, I'm on LinkedIn, they can reach out to me, to my people, mi gente, lo podemos hacer, sí se puede. Así que, go out there and find your passion and pursue it. And, switching out to the investment side of things, early on, when I started my career, I remember sitting with an HR person that says, oh, and these are our benefits and this is your 401k. And I was like, first time in my life, I'm like 22, 23 years old. I'm like, okay, that can wait. I need my money now so I can party. Big mistake, right?
Big mistake. Yes.
Big mistake. So again, life is a journey. You could see people that might be running a marathon, how ahead they are from you. The key, my people, mi gente, is that you need to keep moving forward, even if you're just crawling or learning to walk, even though some other folks are already running. The point is that you are moving forward, and it's never too late to invest. I've made all the mistakes in building wealth. Things I did get myself in credit card debt. I rented obviously my apartment for a long time, and that was obviously as I was younger. And to make it worse, I knew better, right? I knew the importance of investment, and I didn't do it. I let the moment get caught up with me, have fun, buy great things and things like that. And it's when and then I just, maybe by my late 20s, I was like, okay, I need to start at least putting money on my 401k. But I still felt like, oh, this is a long way. I still have
So
time.
far away.
Right. So I
It's so
started.
far away.
Right. So I started putting some money on, let's say, my retirement fund, in my case, a 401k. But it wasn't even enough money to even get my full match from my employer. One of the major errors that we all do.
Right.
Yeah, mistakes. Then it was until I had a family. But again, it's this sense of always trying to better yourself. I was like, why am I not keep paying rent? So I saved as much money as I could. I bought, my husband and I together bought an apartment. And yeah, because he was like, why pay someone when I could, that was my first initial thing I did to start building wealth.
But one of the stepping stones, yes.
Absolutely. It was that, and we still didn't have kids when we did it. Then the kids came, and then when it was time for the kids to enter school, we were like, okay, it's time now to buy a house. And we were able to by having this property, we were able to take advantage of the equity that we had built and the money we had put in by paying our mortgage, and also the value of the house that had increased, the apartment. So we were able to take that money and put it into a deposit for buying a house in the suburbs and bring our kids. And it's when I am now in the house, and now I'm in my mid 30s, and I'm like, okay, my late 30s. I'm not getting any younger.
Okay.
And it was like the light bulb went like, oh, shoot, I keep postponing this. Now I need to get, and now the urgency kicks in, right? And of course, and then I started doing the things. And again, what I wanted, the message I want to send out to our community is, 401k is about paying yourself first. Put some money there. It's pre-tax. You don't see it, and that guest pay is taken care of. But the key here is, and I know it's so hard because believe me, I struggle. The temptations and the things out there is concentrate and pay your credit card debt, any consumer debt. Pay the consumer debt. Save at least for 2-3 months emergency fund. Once you have those things, try to save to see if you could buy a property. If not, fine, but keep saving for that. And then start investing on your 401k, start investing on your future, because when you retire, people, we cannot rely or think about Social Security because we don't know where that's going to be by
Right.
the time we're ready to
We don't know if
retire.
it's still going to be, in existence by the time we retire.
Yes. And so yeah, that was my urgency is when I had a family, and now I'm looking like, oh gosh, I got to get 2 kids through college and those things. So that's when but it wasn't right away. I had
So
debt. I had to
your
pay.
kids were a wake-up call for you to start
Yeah,
thinking about the future.
absolutely. It was, I think I ate something that gave me some allergy. My nose is some. My apologies for those folks that see me scratching. I had sushi before. So, anyways,
Es,
yeah. So I,
es the wine, es el vino,
you know,
seguro.
uh,
Seguramente. Ya te está
seguramente.
llegando a la cabeza.
So, um, yeah. So it was a long journey. I read a book that also made a difference. I have to say, my sister, shout outs to her. So, it's like, oh, you're making all this money and you're just throwing your money away. You're just having fun and traveling and things like that. And I don't know if people have heard of Dave Ramsey.
Yes,
Yeah,
Dave
right.
Ramsey,
Dave
yes.
Ramsey. Forgot his book. I have it. Is Dave Ramsey? Actually, I have it there with me. It's the Total Money Makeover. So I
Okay,
read that book and it was like, oh my God, right?
eye-opening.
Eye opening, and it's like I knew this thing, so even double shame on me. And then it's been, I think, it's been a process of close to 5-10 years. Because again, folks, we're not saying this is easy, but the thing is, we have to do it.
Yeah,
So I'm blessed. Knock on wood, I was able to pay off my credit card debt and save for an emergency fund, and then start investing as much as I could in my 401k. Actually, trying to max the IRS limits. And I'm a big believer also of a law of attraction, because I will tell you something, Yuri. Once I started doing that,
uh-huh.
like money is just flowing.
Oh my goodness. I believe also
Money is
in the law of
flowing.
attraction, yes. And there
More
is
and
a movie out
positivity.
there. There
Yeah,
is a
the secret.
movie, The Secret, exactly. There is a documentary and
Yep.
there is a movie.
And the
And
book.
they both are really great. I love watching both. So if you guys want to check it out, you can check it out. I think it's in Netflix right now. I think if
I'm not
not,
sure. I read the book and I saw the documentary, but if we could summarize it in a couple of words, is the one, you have to change the way you think. You have to be positive. You have to put the work to make things happen for you, and be grateful for what you have. Those are the major 3 things. You have to work, and so I did work towards that. I started cutting my expenses, my unnecessary expenses. I and being blessed for the work I had, and the things that my job was allowing me to do. And my people, once you start doing that, it's just crazy. And now everything in life is again, is a process. Did I really know about investment other than putting some money on my 401k? No. But again, you got to put in the work. I started, again, very intimidating. Something definitely people need to
very
understand. When they
intimidating,
say
yes.
very intimidating, and when they said, "Oh yeah," you hear people talking about, "Oh, I buy this stocks and stuff like that," and the risk, especially our communities and the way we were built, is like we want to have our money under the mattress or in the
Yes.
or in the bank. Not really. And again, kudos to you, Judy, for continuing to have mediums like this to educate and provide that information to our people. But it is a process. I said, do the things that we just mentioned, follow your advices, and start somewhere.
Right.
I started 2 years ago. I really started in learning, and if I compare who I was 2 years ago when I started learning, about stocks and trading and ETFs and mutual funds and this thing, and it was like, oh my God, I
Crazy.
would never get this.
Right.
But 2 years later, I'm happy to say to our folks, I'm no expert, but I am maxing my 401k, and I open a brokerage account that
Right.
when I can and I have the money, I do buy stocks, and it gets very addicting. I'm sure you want to ask me more questions about that.
Yes, I know it's very addicting. But, you know, I always say investing is the single financial activity or financial decision that people make, that this activity has made more millionaires than anything else in the world. Like anything, any other activity that you can do has made more millionaires, more than ganarse la loto, more than ser un CEO o tener un high paying job, o más que, more than having a business, more than anything else, investing in the stock market has made more millionaires than any other activity. But why is it, o por qué cree que los latinos no invierten, o no es que no quieran, me imagino que quieren, ¿no es cierto? Pero siempre hay algo que los detiene, algo que los para. De todas las razas, de todas las ethnicities, de toda clase de gente que hay en los Estados Unidos, los latinos son los que menos invierten en el stock market. Y por esa razón somos los que tenemos menos riqueza acumulada.
It is a lack of education, and it is fear. I'll say, let me switch, fear first, because we work so hard for that money, right? We work so hard, and to think that, you know, we could put it out there and that it may get lost. It's that, and it's also, I think if I, again, and judging by my conversations that I have with, which, by the way, folks, my dad is 77, I don't remember, 71, I believe. And at 71 and retired, he hears me talking about me buying stocks, and now he wants to do it.
Oh my God, you see that?
So because I started explaining, and like it's also a light bulb went in his head. He's like, oh, wait a minute, right? So, because, you know, obviously he has some of his money for retirement. I said, hey, if you put it in certain things, you can double it and, you know, again, and grow it. And so it's that is I think the fear, and it's also misconception, and it's also basically education.
Education. Do you think it's because it's in our culture, you know, that maybe we think, because I've talked to a lot of people about this, y me dicen que tienen miedo, y mucha gente también me dicen que they think it's a scam. Maybe porque no, a nosotros, a los latinos aquí en este país, nos han tumbado tanto, ¿no? Porque nos tocan los peores loans, por ejemplo, de mortgage, ¿no es cierto? Nos ofrecen los peores seguros, nos dan los peores contratos. Entonces nos tumban tanto, maybe, you know, I think they also think that this is a scam, or this, lo van a tumbar en esto, you know.
The stock market doesn't discriminate. That's the one.
Doesn't discriminate.
Does not discriminate.
Eso,
yes.
Eso también es so important, tan importante decir. ¿Por qué? Porque en el stock market lo único que uno pone es dinero. Entonces, el dinero no tiene color, mejor dicho, tiene color verde.
Verde.
Pero es verde para todo el mundo. No tiene color blanco, no es color negro, no es moreno, solo verde, solo verde. Entonces, esa es una de las mejores maneras para la minoría de construir riqueza. Porque
estamos todos al mismo nivel.
Mismo nivel. It's in the same, it's a level playing field cuando estamos ahí. Nuestro dinero vale lo mismo que el de una persona blanca. Tu dinero, el dinero de una persona que trabaja en el deli, poniéndolo en el stock market, vale lo mismo de una persona, de un CEO que trabaja en una empresa, ¿no es cierto? Entonces,
sí. y también vamos a ser razonables. También se trata, you know, shame on our people that are in corporate America and making good money and not doing it. But also we have to see, and I'm sure if you were to go around and do a poll about it, sometimes maybe they say, I just don't have it. Because these are people that are probably working for minimum wage and they're barely surviving and paying the bills.
right.
But again, you know, another advice is it doesn't, yes, people say it takes money to make money, but in the stock market, it's about time. how much
It's about
time
time.
you have, and you can start with just $20, $30. Obviously, at that rate and that input, you might not make millions of dollars, but is it, by the time you are retired or need something, will be zero money to compare to maybe 100, 200,000,
Mhm.
right?
Noelia, have you noticed a change in yourself since you started investing? For example, one of the things that happened to me, and this happened years ago because I started, a while ago, but I always thought about, oh my God, I'm gonna buy a bag for $100. I could put that in the market and make another $100. You start thinking differently once you start investing and you see, the results.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny you ask because sometimes, when you were having dinner as a family, and my daughter says, "Oh, I want this and I want that," and oh, Ma, can you buy me this? And it's like this. I'm like, well, I could take that money and put it in your and buy you a couple of more stocks. And yes, sometimes there are things where my husband will like, oh, what you want for your birthday? You want this? I'm like, give me cash. Because I
Buy
want
me
to
some
buy X
Apple,
many.
buy me some Apple, but Apple stocks.
Yes, and absolutely, it's a state of mind once you get in and you start seeing the results, right? And you see the
Exactly.
positive, and you see your money multiplying. It's like I said before, it's addicting. It's
It
definitely
is
addicting, and
addictive.
and to
It's
that,
it's a lot. It has to do a lot with emotions, right?
yes.
Investing also has to do a lot of emotions. So whenever I help someone, I talk to them about that because it can play games with your mind, right? And if you don't have a plan, a strategy, you know, you can go down the rabbit hole. But if you have a plan and a strategy and you stick to it, then there is no way you're losing.
Yeah, it has to start. And another thing that that we cannot stress enough is that don't just go out again and start investing when again you still have debt to pay and things like that. That does not work for that. That will definitely not work. That's why I said before there are certain things that you have to do to get to that point, and yes, absolutely will agree. It is emotional. It's not easy. I want to continue to stress that because I've been in situations where I hear people talking about how successful they have and how the things are doing, but
Mhm.
it takes hard work for that. And I am by no means no expert. I still have a long way to go. I'm still learning,
Mhm.
but I feel like I'm in the right path. Right.
Yeah,
I'm by
no,
no
no,
means a millionaire or anything like that,
mhm.
but hopefully
But you're
by
going
the
to be,
time
pero
by
vas
by
a
the
ser.
absolutely, like the law of attraction.
Yes,
I will be a millionaire by the time I retired.
exactly. And we'll make sure you are, you become even before Noelia.
And Judy, I know we might have close to the top of the hour. Something we have to remind ourselves is that, um, most of us probably are first, second generation. Obviously, I and my kids are first generation, right? Born here. Is I feel like my parents came to give me a better life, and their concentration was work really hard, not able to save, not able to do well. They did save, but never invested because their concentration was surviving and getting their kids a better life. It's my position now. They gave me that. I got the education. I got into corporate world, and the succession is that I now need to start building wealth for my kids. Is teaching them about finance, how to manage their money, about investment, and there are
Mhm.
many ways to do that. I some of the things, and again, people, I don't have. It's not like I have a lot of money or anything like that. We're talking about maybe $100, $200, $300 out there, especially with the story I'm gonna give. But I opened my kids' brokerage account, custodians accounts, and
Yes.
I spoke to them about it, and they were not, their thing is TikTok and Facebook and all those
Yeah.
things, and they weren't paying attention to me. So I went ahead, I opened them, and I'm like, I'm gonna be smarter. I'm a mom, right? So what I got them, I got them maybe one or two stocks in Apple. I got them Roblox, and I got them
Roblox
AT&T.
is
So
doing well.
right. So I sat them down and I say, hey, and and I put it in their phones, and now they're like they now they're starting to see, and my daughter especially, she's like, oh, I made $2. I say, yeah, $2 that you did not work for, that was passive and just made out there. And again, I'm finding ways to make it interesting for them at such an early
Right.
age, in the hopes that by the time that they're young, adults, that will be ingrained in them, because that's the difference between our community and maybe other communities, is that this kids from other ethnic groups and community have a network, have parents that have a college education that are passing that information along to their kids, and we should continue to do the same.
Right. That's so awesome. Noelia, it was so great having you here and having this conversation with you. A lot of information. You dropped a lot of gems there for people to, maybe wake up. Give them, this would be their wake up call to start investing, to start growing their wealth. And their wealth is not just money, right? It's not just about making money. Wealth is also teaching your kids about financial resources, or teaching your kids how to manage their money, passing that on to your next generation. That's also wealth. You're building your wealth that way, right? But in order for you to teach your kids and pass that on, you have to know yourself. So you have to educate yourself, because this is not something that is taught in school, right? So you have to find your resources. You have to find your education. You have to read. You have to watch live like this, or go to YouTube channels. There's a lot of information in there, and then you can pass that on to your kids.
Absolutely. If there's one thing that is abundant, is resources. Mi gente, there's a lot of resources out there. Continue to watch Judy. She is really looking out and trying to pass along that information to get our people to understand and continue and start building wealth. Judy, what can I say? Thank you so much for having me. It was also my very first, live, and for our community out there that are getting to watch this, I hope that from our live experiences, you were able to learn something. If you want to stay connected, I'm only in LinkedIn.
It was
happy
great story.
to talk.
Your story was great. It was great, because that's one of the stories. Those are the kind of stories I want to share with people, because my target audience is Latinas like us, Latinos, not just women, right? Latinos like us, maybe immigrants, because immigrants, we have the right to build wealth. We deserve to build wealth, just like any other communities, right? Absolutely. So great to hear your story, Noelia. I loved every single part of it. And thank you for sharing it with everyone here at Latinos Creando Wealth. Until next time, maybe we can do another one and talk about something else. We'll find another topic to talk about. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.